Okay, let me get this started. This will be a continuation of the special meeting of council of January 25th, which was recessed on January 26th, 2021. So the special meeting of council of January 25th, for the purpose of personnel review, was in recess and is now called back to order. I do see that all members of council are present. The agenda for the meeting is personnel review. Before recess, the council voted in open session to set the compensation in calendar year 2021 for the city finance director, treasurer, clerk, Jane Blayhut. No other votes were taken. No votes can legally be taken in a closed door session. After the meeting, consistent with the majority sense of council, the chairman of the Personnel Review Committee, Mayor Pro Tem Robson, met with City Manager Seisland to convey a summary of the sense of council on matters related to his personnel review. There's been a great deal of speculation on the discussions held in closed door in the public. I want to emphasize that closed door discussions are strictly confidential. Tonight, we have the responsibility to conclude our actions on the personnel review. My objective, and I believe the objective of the majority of council, is to have a productive meeting and to form a foundation for renewed collegiality and help set a course that will serve Grosse Pointe Park and all its residents well for many years. To that end, and based on my sense of council, I move that we set compensation for calendar year 2021 for the city manager, Nick Seisland, at $100,000, consistent with the terms of his employment contract. Further, council commits to honor all provisions of Mr. Seisland's contract, to have the personnel committee summarize in writing goals and areas for improvement for Mr. Seisland based on council evaluations and input to the personnel committee chair, and to conduct a feedback session based on this document with Mr. Seisland approximately 6 months from now. Do I have support?
Support.
Support from Councilmember Reed. Discussion? Before we get into discussion, let me remind council that the discussion must be narrowly focused on the motion's content and cannot include content related to the city manager's personnel review, which must be conducted in a closed door session. With that, I saw some hands. I think I saw some hands. Does anyone have any discussion?
I did have a statement. I'm not sure I can make it based on what you said just then. So.
Okay. Councilmember Rellin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say, Nick, I look forward to working with you to achieve these goals and areas that we deem improvable. I do have an issue with giving anyone a raise at this point. Working in my job or corporate, I understand that COVID is still pretty relevant and prevalent. Through my work, I understand not many people are getting raises. So that's the only thing I have a question with. I'm wondering if we can push that back to after his evaluation 6 months from now. I will not stop what council seems right here, and I will go with the flow for this. But that's just how I feel about that, giving out money at this point. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment, Councilmember Fluid?
I have a couple of things, actually. First of all, this was not what I expected. I thought we'd be going back into closed session for further discussion, so this is a surprise. Secondly, I would have to agree with the issue with the pay increase. I don't think it's commensurate with his experience. I also think an 11% pay increase is pretty big. And I don't think that's appropriate if we are going to be coming back and doing another review in 6 months. I would also like, as I said, I wasn't expecting a resolution first thing. If you could repeat, actually the entire thing would probably be helpful, because I did have some points I wanted to double check on, and then I may have another question after that, if you wouldn't mind rereading it. Sure,
I'd be happy to. I move that we set compensation for calendar year 2021 for the city manager, Nick Seisland, at $100,000, consistent with the terms of his employment contract. Further, council commits to honor all provisions of Mr. Seisland's contract, to have the personnel committee summarize in writing goals and areas for improvement for Mr. Seisland based on council evaluations and input to the personnel committee chair, and to conduct a feedback session based on this document with Mr. Seisland approximately 6 months from now.
So the only other input that I would have on that would be that we establish a date for that that second review session rather than saying approximately. Because I do think, looking in the past at how long it's taken us to work on, for example, the council rules of conduct, and we've really picked those apart, and it's taken us a long time to agree on those things. And I can see that being an issue with the personnel review document as well. So I personally think it might be helpful to say, that there will be a review in May or June, even if we don't set an exact date, set a month for that.
Yeah, approximately 6 months from now would be July. So, I left it open only because there's always calendar issues in doing that. But I wanted to be specific about this, the 6-month time frame, so that it couldn't slide. So I think that I'm sure that we will get something on the calendar that's specific following approval of this motion.
I'm not, based on prior history, I'm not comfortable with that. But so that's my input.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Robson.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I am comfortable with the motion, including the $10,000 increase per the contract. Even with that $10,000 increase, that would make the salary $90,000 to $100,000. The $100,000 salary would still make Mr. Seisland the lowest paid city manager of all the Grosse Pointes, even with that increase. So in that context, I am comfortable with the increase.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember McConnell.
I have to read, so I can't minimize my screen. So I just wanted to say that I'm glad by working collaboratively, we were able to agree to some terms and a specific review and outcomes. And I believe that this approach should serve all of us, the city manager, the mayor, the council, and most importantly, the residents better moving forward. And while I have some concerns about granting a pay increase for many reasons, it's my understanding that this was part of the initial contract negotiations, and that not granting this pay hike could result in a protracted legal battle, ultimately cost taxpayer dollars. So I will be voting yes for the reasons I just mentioned, and I look forward to collaborating with my colleagues as well as the city manager.
Okay, thank you. Are we ready to call the question? Clerk Playhead, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Rayland,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
Hodges,
Yes.
Robson,
Yes.
Fluid,
No.
and Mayor Denner.
Yes, motion passes. We have completed our responsibilities under the personnel review agenda and the annual process. So thank you, council. It was, as you know, a time-consuming process in our last meeting, and I'm glad that we were able to move ahead here. That brings us on to the next agenda item, which is new and old business. This is because this was a special meeting. Often we wouldn't have a new and old business item, but we did include it in this meeting. We do have a council meeting come up in just 1 week from tonight as well. So, council, do you have any new and old business to bring to our attention? Councilmember Fluid.
I do. I would consider this old business because it's attached to what we've just been discussing. It's not too long, but I'm going to read this. I organized my thoughts here. Mayor Denner, I appreciate the clarification that you made at the beginning of the meeting about the importance of the confidentiality of closed session and that no votes were taken last week. I think it's really important for the public, even if they don't have the time or the inclination to follow all of the details. I think it's important for them to know that we're not having secret meetings. That's very important. But I would like to speak to what transpired after we went into recess. We are always admonished to keep every detail of these discussions confidential, as is required under the Michigan Open Meetings Act allowance for closed session. Confidentiality is serious. even if the minutes from a closed session may only be, even the minutes from a closed session may only be disclosed via court order, even if confidentiality is waived by the employee who requested the meeting in the first place. The minutes are also exempt from FOIA. I will not speak to what was correct or incorrect, but residents know by now of the allegations that went around the community last week. We received many emails from those who wanted to express their concerns. In my comments right now, ironically, I also have to be purposely vague so as not to breach the confidentiality of closed session myself. But I think it's important to say that someone may have broken the law. Without disclosing any details based on the information contained in the various emails that we received, many of which had similar claims and verbiage, I believe this effort was meant to have an effect on what are supposed to be confidential deliberations. Under Chapter 6, Section 6.9 of the City Charter, council shall have power to make investigations as to matters in which the municipality has an interest. I'm going to ask that council begin an investigation into who broke the confidentiality to which we were enjoined by the city attorney. There are legal consequences. In fact, when issues related to the Open Meetings Act have come to court in the past, intent has played an important part. I believe confidentiality was broken with intent. Typically, this would be an investigation led by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Would you like me to make a motion on this?
We really can't make a motion because we're in new and old business. It can be put on the agenda for the next meeting. But City Attorney, you can back me up on that. New and old business is really just to raise points and discussion points.
Yeah, I think the better course would be to put it on the agenda for the meeting Monday, a week from today. And then in the interim too, if there are questions or any research or anything you would like me to do on that, you accurately cited the charter provision. We also have the ethics board available. So I think the proper course, since this is new and old business, would be to raise that as an agenda item specifically for the next meeting.
And that's fine with me. The issue is that we've already missed the deadline to add items to the agenda for the next meeting. So is everybody okay with foregoing the deadline and putting it on next week's agenda?
I support that.
I'm fine.
I'll ask the administration if this provides adequate time for them to accomplish that.
In regards to documents, I don't believe there needs to be any documents with this. I can certainly talk with the city attorney, seeing if there's anything relevant to that. Otherwise, I could add this as an item.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Other new and old business. I see none. Let's close the discussion on new and old business and move on to public comment. I turn this over to the administration to manage that process.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Denner. So because we didn't have any written public comments for the meeting here, I'm going to ask Ms. Leah Smith if there's any public comments in the queue spoken. So Leah, I'll turn it over to you, please.
Thank you, City Manager Seisland. So I have a number of people in the queue. So the first thing I'm going to do is share the 3-minute timer. In case you haven't attended meetings before, all public participants who want to make a public comment get 3 minutes. And you can be added to the queue by pressing *9 on your keypad or by raising your hand in the Zoom app. Max, you are the first person. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And please state your full name and city of residency for the record. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Max Weiner. I'm a resident in Grosse Pointe Park. So I appreciate you taking a moment here. I just wanted to say it would be an understatement for me to say that myself and other residents are concerned with what's been going on with the council meetings as of late. You may recall at a public comment a month ago, actually, I made a comment in support of the work that City Manager Seisland's been doing. Myself and other residents also wrote in to support City Manager Seisland after the council held the 5-hour closed session on the personnel review. I find it really rich that we're getting these accusations now that something untoward happened when there was a grassroots support campaign for a respected city official. Like, look, it doesn't mean that we think, it means that we think Nick Seisland's done a good job. We have eyes and we have ears. And we've seen for month after month the vitriol and the attacks that have been cast at him. And that's why a lot of us felt the need to give him support. The criticism that we've been hearing, the accusations, it's been utterly divorced from the job performance that we've been seeing. However, I can tell you one thing, it's clearly communicated by council members to the residents of Grosse Park over and over again, a commitment to transparency. But through your actions, some members on the council have made abundantly clear this has been a bill of goods that was promised to us. Look, many of us took the council for granted. We can't ignore an interim appointment with 10 weeks on the job, and then there's already upheaval in these council meetings. You all need to think long and hard about what we're actually trying to accomplish here. This is a community. We want to work together. I frankly watch these meetings and hear some of the comments, and it's constantly division being sowed. This is an institution that's supposed to bring us together. We love this town. We love what can be done here. Let's just continue on the work. I appreciate the meeting today. I'm pleased to hear what we've heard so far in the meeting. And again, let's continue on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next comment, please.
Okay, Richard, you are next. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And please state your full name and city of residency for the record. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, we're having a hard time hearing you. Can you try again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi. I had written out a full page of what I wanted to say, but it appears to me that this was now a threat thrown down by Ms. Fluitt. I don't know if this is intimidation or if this is just an insult that she likes to throw out. What I'd like to see is, seeing as how I was watching a video of Councilman Rayland today about transparency, would all of you be willing to open up all your emails, phone conversations, and text messages between yourselves and other members of the community about what you guys are trying to pull over everybody's eyes? I think you got well over 100 emails between all of you. And if you think that is the full gist of everybody that's upset with you people, I suggest it's just the tip of the iceberg. I think you people are working in collusion with other members of the community, such as WeGP, BLM, Eastside Activist Clubs. This is just rancid to me now. I had a nice thing all written out and I was gonna be nice and calm, but what I have just heard is disgusting. And I suggest that City Manager Seisland, if he hasn't already, get himself a lawyer and protect yourselves from these ill people. Hopefully in the next 6 months that the recall will have been started and we're going after people that are this offensive to this community. Thank you very much.
Leah, next public comment.
Thank you. Next comment is Anna. Anna, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please state your full name and city of residency for the record. If you can go ahead, please.
Thank you. Anna Signorino, Grosse Pointe Park. I just wanted to thank everyone for canceling the date skate. I found that to be very atrocious for our community. Second thing, I strongly agree that we ought to have an investigation into the leak for the closed meeting that was held last week. And thirdly, I would like an update on the dog park project that is slated to go through. If there's somebody on the council or city manager or Parks and Rec who can comment on the dog park, thank you.
Thank you. Leah, next public comment.
I should point out, just for clarity for anyone that's in the queue, that this is for the public to be heard by council. Responses would be either offline by the city administration or possibly incorporated into the next council meeting. So I just wanted to make it clear that that is the purpose of public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person in the queue is Ron. Ron, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please state your full name and city of residency for the record. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ron Porter. I live on Pemberton Road in Grosse Pointe Park. And I just want to express my support for an investigation into how this information from a closed meeting found its way into numerous public forums, including the Grosse Pointe News. It appears to me to be some sort of coordinated action on the part of supporters of Mr. Seisland to attack personally several members on the council and try to intimidate them into going along with the company line, the manager's line, the mayor's line, the city attorney's line that has led us for the last many years into the very difficult situation that our city is now in. And it's compounded by the fact that certain members of our community who are on this call and their family, the Cottons, now own the major source of information for many in this community. They have extended their influence to the city council of Grosse Pointe Park. They've exercised that influence and now they're controlling or trying to control the information available to the residents of this community. So it's very dismaying to find that this family has not decided that owning the city government of Grosse Pointe Park is enough, and they now want to control the media in the area. So I think we do need an investigation into how this attack on certain council members became public, how it found its way into the Cotton-controlled media. And I look forward to having the council vote to approve that investigation and have the Wayne County prosecutor investigate that occurrence, because it's a very damaging thing and portends very difficult times for our city ahead, even more difficult than are now. Thank you.
Leah, next comment.
Okay, Marty, you're next. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please state your full name and city of residency for the record. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Leah. My name is Martin Steiger. I'm a park resident. I just wanted to express my support for the sentiment that Councilmember Fluitt stated earlier regarding the potential vote on an investigation into how confidential information that was raised during a closed, what is supposed to be a closed session, found its way into the public square. And I would encourage when the matter comes up for a vote, hopefully next week, I would encourage the council members to support an investigation. I don't see how that could be perceived as a threat. As somebody stated earlier, I think we need to get to the bottom of what happened. And I would just remind some members of council that it's time to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. I've heard sentiments expressed from various council members regarding best practices and procedures, how they're not willing to compromise their values, how they live by a code of honor, how courage and integrity means doing what's right, how no malarkey happens on their watch, how their goal is to move a gray situation into black and white, and how character and integrity always comes first. And I think that in this situation requires that there be some sort of investigation into what happened here. Thank you.
Next comment.
Kelly, you are next. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please state your full name and city of residency for the record. Please go ahead.
Hi, Kelly Victor. I'm a resident of Grosse Pointe Park. Just a quick comment. I just wanted to offer my support as well for Councilmember Fluitt's motion for an investigation. and echoing what Ron and Martin just said. Thank you.
Next comment.
Mary, you are next. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please state your full name and city of residency for the record. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Mary Rulo, Grosse Pointe Park. I just want to talk for a second on a slightly different track about the reporting that was done in the Grosse Pointe News, where they published an anonymous text that basically calls out a liberal agenda and talks about troublemakers and a small group of attention seekers that currently hold the quote temporary unquote title of Grosse Pointe City Council members. So I think this kind of rhetoric is really, really unacceptable. You know, we've been called militants, we've been called a lot of things, people like me who ask questions, but we're going to continue to ask questions. I was involved in helping to get people elected on a platform of transparency, which is long overdue in the city, but which I firmly believe represents the majority, the strong majority of Grosse Pointe Park. You know, we can work together, but we need to work based on the facts. And there's a lot of facts that are still not in the public domain. Thank you.
Leah, next comment.
Okay. Brian, you are next. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please state your full name and city of residency. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Brian Vosberg, resident of Grosse Pointe Park. And while we can have our differences, and I've certainly voiced my differences with opinions of how different things should be handled in the city. One thing that I have been consistent on, in that in my professional career, I insist on is good government. And part of good government is following Open Meetings Act. And it is good government not just for elected officials, but it's also good government for the employees of the city. And so while we have supporters saying that this was their actions were in support of the city manager, please remember that it's the city manager who's the one who requested the closed session. So this was really a disservice to the city manager. And I hope that this sort of thing never happens again. And I support an investigation into this. Thank you.
Leah, next comment.
I have no further public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you, Leah. That closes public comment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councilmember Reed, support.
Support.
Councilmember Rellin, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Raylan,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Robson,
Yes.
Fluid,
Yes.
and Mayor Denner.
Yes, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, council, and thank you, public, for attending, and I'll see you all on Monday.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.